I'm gonna lift. Oh, dude, totally got a squirrely there.
Completely, yep. For the average person, that is extremely scary.
Because what a lot of people will feel is they'll get into a corner like this, right? They'll be like, oh, I'm not gonna make it, I'm gonna lift.
Yep.
They're gonna turn like this, and look at that, we're full sideways.
That is crazy.
It's a big difference.
And this is key up, you have everything on, right?
Yeah, this is traction control fully on in normal. We're in, on winter tires. This video is brought to you by OpenVPP and Ionna. OpenVPP, a global virtual power plant for electric vehicles. See vehicles charging across the world and zoom in to see real-time charging status in what aims to be the world's largest vehicle virtual power plant. OpenVPP allows you to track charging history, energy usage, and daily trips, comparing your usage versus others, day to day and month to month. With OpenVPP, we're working together to showcase the potential of EV charging to electric grid operators. There may even be future coordinated EV charging rewards coming soon. So sign up today at world.openvpp.energy. It's completely free to join and takes under 60 seconds. And Ionna, the EV charging network brought to you by the world's leading automakers. Ionna is raising the bar on what it means to charge. We're talking a 400 kilowatt minimum nationwide network built with the customer in mind. Fast, reliable, affordable, every single time. Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video. Is having electric car regen or recuperation dangerous? Well, I have brought along a rear-wheel drive, front-wheel drive, and all-wheel drive electric car to explain the safety considerations when driving an electric car in sheet ice. I mean, this is about as slippery as you can get out here at the Out of Spec track, and we'll be discussing regen and regen drag control. So this is a pretty fun basic video for you guys over on the Out of Spec Reviews channel. We had a freak ice and snowstorm that has hit most of the US come by the track, and well, what better opportunity do we have to discuss regen drag control than right now? This is perfect. Now I have our Tesla Model 3 long range right here that is a rear drive car. And a lot of people know that electric cars can output energy with their electric motor, but also recuperate energy as they slow down. It's one of the reasons that brakes last forever on electric cars. I mean, unless you're really ripping on them out on track, you pretty much can get lifetime service out of a braking system if maintained properly, in the sense that they don't get rust built up or corroded from just not being used very often. So that poses a couple different challenges. I'm sure many of our viewers, you guys at home, are familiar with traction control and stability control. And we've done so many tests out here on the track showing, okay, longitudinal wheel speed control, if that's done in a, sort of a ECU that's off-board, or if it's done in the inverter for that particular motor, on how much more precise powertrain control you can get. Most people are pretty comfortable with the idea of traction control where if the wheel's spinning like crazy, the car will reduce the power output to try to get the wheel back into traction with the surface that you're driving on. And stability control, same idea. You go into a corner in a rear drive car, you floor it, you might get oversteer, but it'll cut power and start grabbing brakes to do something called yaw damping, where if you have a ton of yaw on the vehicle or a ton of slide, it'll grab brakes to slow that down, make you kind of feel like a hero, keep you safe, and keep you on the road. Now, on this channel, we are not fans of that technology because we like to go sideways, but it is still needed and super important, and it is life-saving technology that should be kept on all the time on public roads. So then with electric cars, you have that other force like we were discussing, which is the deceleration happening from the electric motor. And what can happen with a rear drive electric car as it starts to recuperate energy into the battery pack is it could lock the rear wheels on ice. And then it really comes down to, oh man, you could get into a spicy situation if regen drag control doesn't kick in. Now, Tesla has some of the best powertrain management and some of the best regen drag control out there, and we'll be showing you how our Tesla performs in a lift-off experience where we're going to get up to about 50 or 60 miles an hour, lift off from the accelerator pedal, and then try to actually get the car to slide out here on the straightaway, and we'll see how the systems keep us safe. Here in the Nissan LEAF, the forces are reversed. So having a front-wheel drive based vehicle with regen or recuperation means that the front wheels can actually lock. Now, the likelihood of that happening is lessened because when you start to decelerate, the weight comes on the front of the car. It pushes the tires into the ground, and so they're actually better at providing traction under deceleration with Regen on front-wheel drive EVs, but they are still equipped with Regen Drag Control. And then we have a dual motor electric vehicle. This is a VinFast VF8, which is an all-wheel drive electric car. And who knows what kind of tuning VinFast has done in this thing based off some initial ICE driving today. Nothing very good. Very, very awkward drivetrain tuning, but I think it still should have Regen Drag Control, and we can at least show what happens. If this doesn't turn out to be a good example, I've got a couple Rivians at the office just over here, and we can grab one of those and showcase the technology. So when I am online and I'm seeing viewer commenters, or I'm in one of the Facebook groups for electric cars, I see a lot of people recommending to turn down Regen while driving in snow and ice. And that generally seems to be the expert or the enthusiast sort of recommendation to new EV drivers. Turn down Regen to avoid situations. And a lot of earlier electric cars had pretty bad Regen drag control. In fact, my dad had a very early BMW i3. This has got to be over 10 years ago now. And he actually picked up and took delivery of his i3 in the middle of a snowstorm. And the car was on winter tires. And the scariest thing for him was not accelerating or even steering. It was every time he would lift off the accelerator pedal, the back wheels would lock. And it would take a second for Regen Drag Control to stop applying recuperation force to the motor and unlock for him to go. And he was saying, hey, he was actually having to counter steer because of the recuperation. Modern electric cars have come a long way since those days, and some electric cars don't even let you turn down recuperation settings anymore. For example, the Tesla is always set to full force. So in this video, let's just go see how these cars perform, and then at the end of the video, we'll make a recommendation to say, hey, should you turn down recuperation or turn down Regen in slippery conditions for safety, or should you keep it on for more efficiency? Because of course, if you turn it down, then you're not going to be recharging the battery every time you slow down. Let's go drive each of these cars and see how they perform and discuss this Regen Drag Control topic, because it's something that doesn't get enough attention online. Well, you guys join me in the Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive now to discuss what happens when you recuperate on the rear axle or Regen on the rear axle. You can use them interchangeably and potentially lock the rear wheels. Does it become a dangerous situation, or has technology solved the problem? And this will be very dependent on the type of car that you drive. So I'll show you a good and bad example. We'll actually take out an old i3, same one my dad had his original issue with, to showcase kind of the older EV tech. So here you have the power meter that you're going to be focusing on during this drive. As I output power, this black bar will come up, and as I regen, the green bar will come down. It's very mini right now because I was just touching the accelerator pedal and the regen. Now, many EV folks will recommend to turn off Regen or turn down Regen. In fact, you can't do that in this car. There's no way in new Teslas, unless it's the new Tesla Model Y, to actually turn down Regen. The reason the new Model Y can do this is because they use a brake-by-wire system, so they can actually blend in recuperation on the brake pedal, whereas this car is just a physically connected brake pedal that does not add any sort of deceleration force from an electric motor standpoint. So what we're essentially going to find out is I'm going to turn around, head down the straightaway, and see if it feels dangerous or feels weird when I lift off the accelerator pedal and the rear wheels start to lock from the battery trying to get recharged from the motor. So we're going to accelerate. First of all, very limited grip. I'm full acceleration down. You can see traction control is blinking there. And if I go pretty crazy like this, we can get stability control to start grabbing brakes and trying to stop us from swapping ends and sliding. It's extremely icy conditions out here. We'll go around the VinFast and the LEAF that are parked just up over here, and then I'm going to lift off the accelerator pedal, and we are going to watch the power gauge. So let's get up to 50 miles an hour. There's 49, there's 50, 3, 2, 1, I'm off. You can see Regen comes in and then it's instantly backing down, and I'm off. It's all the car doing this. If I put a big steering input in, it almost completely shuts off regen, and then as soon as I get straight again, it's going to blend more in. And so essentially what it's doing is Tesla has some of the best, if not the world's best powertrain control when it comes to dealing with loose surface. It's keeping those rear tires right at the maximum deceleration force without locking. It doesn't wait for them to lock first. It's way higher frequency response than a typical ABS system. And there is completely zero perception from my side that the car is having a rear wheel locking event. Clearly the car can pick it up because it's doing all the longitudinal wheel speed control and management inside of the inverter, which means there's almost zero delay to get to a separate controller and then for that signal to get back to the motor. It's happening in real time. Really cool. Watch here as I go 40 miles an hour. I'm going to lift off, big regen hit, put in steering, and you can see the car is tracking completely straight. There's no risk of sliding at all. I'm off the throttle completely. We're just kind of coasting forwards. No scary event whatsoever. In fact, I'm going to give you guys the worst case scenario of this right here. I'm on all season tires, on straight ice, coming into a hairpin corner at the end of the runway, the straightaway here. I want you to just stay looking ahead and looking at this bar right here. I'm going to lift off and do all the recuperation into the corner, so I'm not touching the brake at all. Well, I am actually going to need to scrub a little speed, but here we are, recuperation into the corner, and I'm going to crank the wheel over, and I'm just going to keep it turned. Look at this. We're just turning, and we're off this way. No chance of sliding out, no swapping ends, nothing like that. I was just able to point the car in the direction I wanted it to go, and it just did the turn perfectly. And to over exaggerate that, I kept it turned to show you that, hey, we're not sliding out, when there's no risk of turning. I can actually get the car leaned in a corner like this and lift off completely. And you can see it has such amazing powertrain control. Look at how quickly it's adjusting all of the power management. As soon as we're straight again, it's adding back in recuperation, turn, and it comes back off. Crazy fast response time. Logan joins me from the passenger seat. I know you're moving around a lot.
Yeah.
You want to just lock in here really quick as I do
sure.
the couple corners? How does it feel to you, Logan? Imperceptible, right?
So good. And this is something that I experience day to day with my Model 3 Performance. They are simply the best when it comes to Regen Drag Control.
All right, so I'm going to lift off. We're in regen, turn the wheel. Look at that. Goes to basically coasting as soon as it can again. It's regenning, turn the wheel again. It actually even applied a little bit of throttle there, and it looked like.
Yeah, it did.
Or at least there was a big enough electrical load to show output from the battery pack. And Tesla just has this totally dialed in. But Logan, there are so many other rear-wheel drive EVs that are non-Tesla vehicles.
Yep.
And each brand, each manufacturer has their own level of tuning to make this safe or unsafe.
For sure.
Clearly, there's no risk here. Again, I'm going to get the car loaded in a corner like this, lift off. I don't have to change my steering input. I don't have any weird thing happening whatsoever. There's no chance of sliding out. I'm just pointing the car where I want it to go, and regardless if I'm on the accelerator pedal or regen or hard brakes, the car has so many systems to just keep me going in that direction. Now, we need to do this in the old i3 to showcase kind of older technology, because it actually is pretty sketchy in that car.
Definitely.
Guys, you joined me in our old 2014, I think this one is, maybe a 2015 BMW i3. And this has been such a blast to have out here. Rear drive, it's actually on winter tires, and it's been awesome when you turn traction control all the way off in roller mode. But watch this, as I regen, you'll see it comes down and it's really pulsing a little bit. It kind of locks, lets go, but then it kind of gets into the groove. But that initial hit of big regen is what can freak a lot of i3 owners out. So what I would like to do, Logan, is I'd like to get this car set in a corner and lift off and see if I need to counter steer or do anything.
Perfect.
Now in this car, you can't actually turn down traction control or turn down regen.
Okay.
It's one setting, it's always on. And because of this car, a lot of people complained about the regen locking on the rear, and that's why so many cars have an option to turn it down.
Right, yeah, and you would think that if the tuning isn't great, you would at least want to have the option.
All right, so let's lock it into this corner here, and I'm gonna lift. Oh ho ho! Dude, totally got a squirrely there.
Completely, yep. For the average person, that is extremely scary.
Because what a lot of people will feel is they'll get into a corner like this, right? They'll be like, oh, I'm not going to make it. I'm going to lift.
Yep.
They're going to turn like this. And look at
Oh
that. We're
my
full
gosh.
sideways.
That is crazy.
It's a big difference.
And this is key up. You have everything on, right?
Yeah, this is traction control fully on in
Yep.
normal. We're in, on winter tires, for example. And it's just a natural human reaction for a lot of inexperienced drivers, especially, and here we're just sliding around anyway, but to lift off the accelerator pedal, let the car coast, especially if you come from a combustion car. But in an electric car with poor regen drag control like the i3, watch this. I'm going to get us set up into this corner. I don't know if they'll be able to see the rotation, but I'm going to lift coming in here. Dude, it's fully about to slide out.
That is absolutely crazy.
We just went from a large radius turn to a really tight turn just by lifting.
And had it been completely neutral with no regen or no throttle, that would not have happened.
How is there a bird here?
Not sure.
Okay, so that is something that you really do need to be mindful of, and everything we're saying in this video is determined by the type of vehicle that you own. Now, newer BMWs, amazing regen drag control, like iX3, just like Tesla, amazing. This is a over 10-year-old electric car with older technology. BMW should have made a feature to turn down recuperation.
Right, if it's not tuned well, you gotta just turn it off.
Yeah. Now I'm going over here into the i3, just a little party trick for anyone curious, and I'm going to hit this start roller mode. Now this is a dynamometer test mode that allows us to then slide the i3 around. Interestingly, it shuts off regen completely.
Okay.
But watch this, Logan. You can drift an i3. How cool is that?
So much fun.
Dude, we're full sideways in an i3.
And once you get into this mode, I mean, just so controllable, such a great drift car.
Yeah, because you have so much steering lock to work with as well. So it's super fun. And now I love this. Rally it through here. Dude, it's so fun.
Oh my gosh. Holy crap.
Well, now we're out in the new Nissan LEAF, and I really don't know what to expect from this car because I haven't driven it in the ice yet, but it is a front-wheel drive car with regen. Now, I've turned E-Step on, which will give us the most amount of recuperation, and I've been warming up the battery with the optional battery heater. Crazy that it's optional in a $40,000 car, but you need to have a $300 option in order to warm up the battery to get it warm enough to accept regen. Now it does accept regen, and it felt pretty strong there. So what I want to do is get this thing moving and feel if it has any more regen than the Tesla. My guess is it will. We're both on similar sized all-season tires. They're both not snow or ice rated at all. And you can see this has reasonable acceleration being front wheel drive, and traction controls holding us in check, which is as you would expect. It's doing its job. But I'm really curious about the regen performance. So you're going to see this bar come down, and I guess what we'd be looking for in a front wheel drive is if it locks the front wheels, we don't really have the risk of sliding out, but we do have the risk of understeering or washing the front end out, because if it locks the front wheels, we then lose steering, which could be potentially just as bad as oversteering out of control. So let's do that same situation. As I come screaming into this corner here, I'm going to lift off for full recuperation. Oh, you can see it's backing off, and it actually backed off completely the whole way, where it has shut off all regen. pretty good ESP, and now it's not regenning at all, actually. It's kind of just freaked itself out there. So where Tesla was trying to give you back as much regen as soon as you came straight, it really just felt like the LEAF thought, okay, you're in a crazy situation, I'm just going to cut back on all regenerative braking right there, which I think is a reasonably smart decision to do if you don't have that great motor control that Tesla has. So let's bring it up to speed again, and I'm going to lift off before I enter this corner. So lift off regen, we're turning in. Will it give it back? Because now we're just coasting straight, very slowly, almost nothing. Actually, it's just regenning here, Logan, but the gauge isn't showing.
Yeah. That is very interesting.
Isn't that weird?
So it has like a memory of ESC events almost.
Yeah, it definitely is way worse tuned than the Tesla. And even though this is a front-wheel drive vehicle, it actually feels a little bit sketchier than even the Tesla felt being rear drive. What's the impression from the backseat?
Yeah, it doesn't feel confidence inspiring. It's kind of like the car is fighting, whereas the Tesla feels like it is in its element.
Yeah, you know, being front wheel drive and recuperating, all the weight comes on the nose as soon as you lift off, and it still does induce a little bit of oversteer. And I don't think it's anything particularly scary or bad. I just think a lot of drivers are going to prefer in this car to turn regen all the way off, which I have basically right here in the least setting, least amount of regen setting, and then it feels a little bit more natural. Now, what's interesting about doing this is the brake pedal will add recuperation to the deceleration, which means it's actually still going to brake with the motor before it transitions to friction brakes, and you almost have that same weird sense that it requires Regen Drag Control, if you will. You know what I'm saying, Logan?
For sure, yep.
But, you know, overall, I think a front-wheel drive feels, you know, compared especially to the i3, this feels a little bit better. It doesn't feel as scary when regen stops working. And, yeah, just feels like a not poorly tuned motor, but just a basic tuned motor with Regen Drag Control, where you've got to get it in a weird situation, the car slides, and then it just tends to freak out and doesn't want to give you any regen back. But it does do a lot of brakes to tuck you into a corner, no question. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, I would say it's not on par with the Tesla, better than the i3, but I think it being front drive hides a little bit of that.
It really does.
Because, you know, the i3 is, for an average person, completely scary, whereas this, you're just kind of understeering and you can see where you're going.
Yep, totally agree. So front-wheel drive EV, I think automakers can get away with a little bit of worse tuning here. And yep, and you'll be totally fine. So now we need to talk about all-wheel drive, because now you have to do Regen Drag Control on 2 separate axles, and that's where tuning gets really difficult. Hey Logan, so we're in the VinFast VF8 now, which is a car we haven't featured too much to recently, but we're getting back into testing it. You pointed this out to me though. This is really funny.
Yeah, so the efficiency says 2.6 kilowatt hours over 100 miles for my recent road trip of 400 miles, which would be like 30-something miles per kilowatt hour.
Yeah, so like go home Aptera. VinFast is here. Yeah. That's amazing. This thing runs on air.
So it's clearly 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour.
Yes, but the gauge shows kilowatt hour per 100 miles.
Somehow this made through on a production vehicle.
Yeah, well, you know, it is VinFast. So let's see how they tune their stuff. First of all, their suspension is really harsh. And this is the first car we've had other than the Leaf. So I guess this and the Leaf allow for regenerative braking off, low, medium, and high. And yeah, basically, let's start with it in high and see how it feels, shall we? So we'll get up to speed. First of all, having that all-wheel drive acceleration, you can tell, even though we're on all-season tires, this thing is putting the power down, dude.
Absolutely. Yep.
So having all-wheel drive really does help get you going from a dual motor standpoint. Now we do have some ice and some wipers action that's going on here. Let me turn some of that down. And let's go in the other direction and try a big regen hit. Dude, it's so slippery out here.
There is zero traction.
Yes. Now the power gauge in the VinFast is this right here. So you have the output on the right side and the regen on the left side. I'm really shocked at how highly sprung this vehicle is. You really need to get it into some bumps to get it to work. It's pretty rough out here, actually. So let's get it up to, I don't know, 60 miles an hour. And I'm going to do a big regen hit. Ready, Logan?
Go for it.
Okay, and we're off. Dude, pretty great Regen Drag Control. It's holding it back a little bit. You can see it jiggling there. Watch what happens if I put some steering in. You know what? I think they did a pretty good job here.
Very good.
So when you're tuning a dual motor all-wheel drive system like this, you have to control the drag on the rear axle and the front axle, which means it's double the logic of control that the vehicle needs to handle. And as long as you get one of the logics right, you just apply them to both axles. But surprisingly, it really feels like VinFast did a nice job here where I can get it into a corner and it's very gentle on the regen because it knows that we are on a loose surface. I am curious just to try turning regen off, for example. Let's just see how that feels if I drive it, if it will blend on the friction brakes or not. So as I lift off, you can see there's very, very little regen happening because it's off. It still feels just about the same. I can hit the brake pedal and it still is blending in recuperation on the brake pedal before it switches to friction brakes. But I've got to say, it all comes down to the vehicle, and VinFast did a really nice job here. We'll do the same test where we load it up into the corner like this, and I'm going to lift off. It feels dead stable, really nice, defaulted to more of an understeering vibe. But now that we've come back straight, it has not ramped back regen. It's just held it at the minimum amount that it dragged down to. What do you think, Logan?
Yeah, so kind of like the Leaf in that way, where it's like, all right, I'm done. We're just not going to do any. Off throttle, though, that immediate first impression, very, very good. You can see it doing the fine control. Felt smooth, didn't feel stressed at all, and more importantly, gave us a lot of regen, which for daily driving can be important for efficiency. Yeah,
I'm going to get it loaded up here in this right-hander as we come through, and I'm going to snap off the accelerator pedal. Let's just see how it feels. So in 3, 2, 1, snap off. Dude, it regens nicely, and it can tell exactly where it's slipping, and it backs off. I think they tuned this really well.
Which is crazy because the ESC system is
so bad.
Is one of the worst I've ever felt.
It doesn't give you anything when you hit the accelerator pedal, and it doesn't know when to unlock. So like here, it takes a while to get us power down once we're back in a straight line experience. So yeah, the whole ESP and traction control tuning needs some work, but I gotta say, from a safety perspective, they really did tune Regen Drag Control into a nice area.
Definitely.
So I think that kind of sums up the idea of should you turn down regen in slippery controls. Well, it really comes down to the car that you're driving. In most modern electric cars, you don't need to worry anymore. The engineers have put so much effort into stability control, traction control, and regen drag control to just operate in the background and hold the tire at its maximum level of grip without doing anything weird. Older EVs, yes, like the BMW i3, gets to the point where it almost locks the rear tires, puts the car into a slide, and then opens up the regen drag. I really think that in most modern electric cars, nothing to worry about. Logan, what do you think?
Definitely. It's hard to find one, in the 26 model year now that's going to be tuned really, really poorly.
Even if VinFast has got this down.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the ultimate test. If they're good, I think you'll probably be okay.
Yep, I think so too. So there you go. Not much to worry about in terms of regen on ICE anymore, but certainly in an older EV, something to keep your eye on. Most of the time, just let the system do its job. Be ready to counter steer if you need to. And none of them, I would say, are particularly more dangerous than the i3. That's always been kind of the worst offender. So with all of that, we'll leave you here at the track. That was a fun day of sliding around. Hopefully we get another big snow day coming up, but there you go. Lots of experiments and testing here on Out of Spec. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on another one again soon. Bye-bye.